"Dad, you don't need this house anymore. You've had your time here." Those were my daughter's words as she handed over the keys to my beach house to her in-laws, as if it were some second-hand piece of furniture. They smiled. I just stood there, watching how a daughter tries to take her father's house without even trying to hide it. But she had no idea about the surprise she was about to find in the days ahead. I'm going to tell you everything, but before that, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. And let me know where you're listening from. I'd really love to know how far this story is reaching. My name is Charles Reed. I'm 68 years old, and I've spent my entire life working with wood. For 40 years, I had my own home renovation business here in Orange County. It wasn't some empire, but it was honest work. We turned old houses into real, warm homes. I retired 3 years ago, right after I lost my wife Olivia to a cancer that moved faster than our ability to fight it. Ever since, that beach house in San Clemente has become my final refuge. You know when you lose the most important person in your life and just need a place where you can breathe? Olivia and I bought that piece of land back when we still lived in a small apartment in Santa Ana. It was just an empty lot with a partial view of the ocean, but she could already see what it might one day become. "Charles, imagine us having coffee out there on the porch, listening to the waves," she'd say every time we passed by. I just saw dry grass and a lot of hard work ahead, but when Olivia dreamed about something, well, you just made it happen. That's how things worked between us. She visualized our future, and I built it with my own hands. I built that house brick by brick on the weekends with the help of 2 carpenter friends. No contractors, no fancy designs, just pure determination poured into every Saturday and Sunday. Every board on the deck, every kitchen shelf, even the window frames. All of it passed through my hands. Olivia was there overseeing things, bringing sandwiches, and complaining that I was making the porch too small. She was right, like she always was. It was our legacy, built with love and sweat. Our emotional inheritance taking shape. The house wasn't luxurious, but it had a soul. A real one. 2 simple bedrooms, a living room with a stone fireplace, and that porch Olivia had dreamed about for so long. We spent every weekend there, especially during the summer when San Clemente got livelier. She hosted small barbecues with a few neighbors. I went fishing early in the mornings off the pier, and at the end of the day, we'd sit there together watching the sunset. They were simple moments, but they were entirely ours. We didn't need anything more than that to be completely happy. After she passed, that place became more than just a beach house. It became the one place where I could still feel her presence. In the wicker armchair she picked out, in the blue blanket folded neatly on the couch, in the little seashell decorations she scattered throughout the house. Every corner held a piece of the woman I loved most in this life. It's strange how a place can carry so much of someone who's no longer there, but it's also comforting. In a way, only someone who's been through it can fully understand. At first, Kelly asked me for the house key to spend a weekend there with Rick. "Dad, you guys built such a beautiful place. It'd be nice to enjoy it a little too," she said over the phone, with that voice that sounded so reasonable. I didn't see a problem. After all, she was my daughter, and the house was sitting empty most of the time anyway. I handed her the key and told her to be careful with everything. I even thought it was sweet that she wanted to be close to something her mom and I had built together. Sometimes we see affection where there's really just interest, don't we? After that first weekend, Kelly called again. She wanted to use the house for the 4th of July holiday, just the 2 of them, because I didn't enjoy it like I used to anymore. That phrase caught me off guard, but I let it go. Grief makes people act differently, and maybe she was trying to protect me. I said it was fine, that they should enjoy the holiday there. But when she said I didn't enjoy it like before, something about it stung. What did she mean I didn't enjoy it? It was my house, built with my own hands. Have you ever had the feeling that someone was redefining your own life without asking you? Then she started going more often, like it was slowly becoming some kind of earned right. Every month there was a new excuse. Wedding anniversary, her in-laws visiting, just a relaxing weekend. I always agreed because honestly, I didn't know how to say no to my own daughter. But I started noticing that she never asked if I was planning to use the house. She just told me when she'd be there. The difference is subtle, but it means a lot. It's like when someone stops asking for permission and just starts informing you. The tone changes. The dynamic shifts. Things got even weirder when Kelly began calling to ask if I was going to use my own house. "Dad, are you going to San Clemente this weekend? Because we were thinking of going." The reversal was complete. I now had to justify using my own property to my daughter. It was as if she were managing my schedule, my life, my decisions. I always said I didn't have any plans, because truthfully, I never really made many. But I was starting to realize that my spontaneity was being used against me. There was one weekend when I said yes, I was going to the house. Kelly went quiet on the phone for a few seconds, a little too long. "Oh, okay, Dad. Then we'll go another time." But her tone wasn't understanding. It was barely concealed annoyance. I hung up the phone with a strange feeling, like I'd done something wrong just by wanting to use my own property. That's when I started to suspect something much more serious was going on. Something I couldn't quite name yet, but that had been growing right under my nose. One random weekend, without telling anyone, I got in the car and drove to the beach house. I hadn't planned anything. I just woke up with this urge to sit on the porch and have coffee while listening to the ocean. It was my house, after all. I didn't need anyone's permission to be there. I drove through San Clemente with that good feeling you get when you're heading to your favorite place in the world. But when I turned onto the street, the first thing I saw made me stop the car. The front of the house was a different color, new curtains in the windows, and Rick's Honda Civic was parked in my driveway. Kelly was there, stepping out the front door with a trash bag in her hand. She saw me in the car and paused for a few seconds like she was calculating what to say. She didn't look embarrassed. She looked more annoyed that she had to explain something. I got out of the car slowly, still trying to process what I was seeing. She greeted me with that tone you use when you've been caught doing something you shouldn't, but won't admit it. She said it was good I came and that she was just organizing a few things. Organizing? In my house? Without telling me? I asked her if she had painted the house, pointing at the front, which used to be beige and was now a bluish gray. I mentioned the new curtains too. She dropped the trash bag and sighed like I was being annoying for noticing such obvious changes. She said I hardly ever came anymore, and she was just getting the house ready for summer, making it nicer, cozier. Nicer for who? Cozier for who? Because to me that house was already perfect the way it was. That's how Olivia and I had left it. I asked her if she thought she could make changes without letting me know. I tried to keep my voice calm, but I could feel irritation building in my chest. Kelly looked at me like I was being unreasonable. She told me not to make a big deal out of it. It was just some paint and a few curtains. She said Rick's parents were staying there for a few days and she wanted everything to look nice. Rick's parents? In my house? Without anyone asking me? I reminded her that the house was still mine. She couldn't just decide who was staying there. The conversation was getting tense and I could feel there was more going on behind these changes. She crossed her arms and looked at me in a way I'd never seen before. She said it was only for a few days and told me to relax. Then she added that it would be better if I didn't come while they were there, that it would be awkward for everyone if I just showed up. Awkward? Me showing up at my own house? That's when it felt like someone punched me in the gut. Kelly wasn't just using the house, Kimby, and she was cutting me out of it. I asked her if she was forbidding me from entering my own property. She said she wasn't forbidding anything, she was just being practical. Said it was a matter of common sense. Whose common sense? Rick showed up at the door at that moment, waved at me from a distance, but didn't come closer, like he knew the conversation was heavy. Kelly looked at him, then at me, and said we'd talk about it later. Right now, she needed to finish getting things ready. She picked up the trash bag and went back inside, leaving me standing there on the sidewalk. That's when it finally hit me. This wasn't just a weekend visit. This was an occupation. And I, the owner of the house, had just been dismissed from my own property. You know that feeling when you've been kicked out of something that's rightfully yours? I got back in the car with my hands shaking, not from fear, but from a kind of anger I hadn't felt in years. Kelly hadn't just changed the color of the house. She had changed the rules of the game. And apparently under those new rules I was a nuisance, an obstacle, someone who just showed up out of nowhere at his own house. I drove back to Santa Ana with one thing becoming crystal clear in my mind. If I didn't do something, that house was going to disappear from my life. And with it, the last tangible piece of the memory I had with Olivia. On Monday morning, I drove to the property records office in Orange County. I wanted to check in person if everything was still in order with the house's paperwork, to make sure no one had messed with anything behind my back. The clerk greeted me politely and asked for a few minutes to locate all the records tied to the property. I sat in a plastic chair, tapping my fingers on the desk, with a growing sense of dread in my chest. When she came back with a thick folder, her expression had changed. "Mr. Reed, there's some information here you need to see." She opened the folder and showed me a document that made my stomach turn. There was a request to change the ownership of the property that had been temporarily suspended due to technical issues. Kelly had tried to transfer the house into her name, using a medical declaration that claimed I was mentally incapacitated because of my age. The request had been paused because it was missing some supporting documents, a second medical evaluation, and a mandatory court-ordered assessment. It was a close call, the clerk said. If she submits the missing paperwork, the process could move forward. My own daughter was just a few documents away from legally taking my property. "How long does she have to complete the paperwork?" I asked, feeling my heart start to race. 90 days from the date the request was filed, Mr. Reed. 60 have already passed. 30 days. Kelly had 30 days to gather the remaining documents and complete what would be a perfectly executed real estate scam against a fully lucid elderly man. The date of the initial filing was 2 months ago, exactly when she started increasing her visits to the house. That wasn't a coincidence. She was laying the groundwork, literally occupying the property while the legal process to seize it was already underway. I requested a complete copy of the case records and walked out of the office with a feeling I had never experienced before. Kelly wasn't just using the house, she was carrying out a plan to steal it from me. It was a calculated strategy. Physical occupation of the property paired with legal appropriation through claims of mental incapacity. If it worked, I would lose my house and be officially labeled mentally incompetent by the court. The betrayal ran deeper than I could even process. How does a daughter look at her own father and see nothing but an obstacle to be removed? On Tuesday, I met with a lawyer who specializes in real estate law. He reviewed all the documents carefully and confirmed what I already knew deep down. "Mr. Reed, your daughter is very close to getting what she wants. Her filing is technically correct. She just needs to complete the required medical documentation." I asked him about my legal options, and he was direct. "You can challenge it, but you'll need to prove your mental capacity through medical exams and official evaluations. It's a long and exhausting process." The irony hit me like a punch. I would have to prove I was mentally sound just to keep my own house. That same afternoon, I found out Kelly had contacted a real estate agency to get an estimate on the property's value. The agent, someone I knew from San Clemente, gave me a call because she found the situation odd. "Charles, your daughter reached out asking for a detailed appraisal of your house. She said you were thinking about selling and that she wanted to help with the family decisions." Kelly had even calculated the value of the property she was trying to take. This wasn't just an emotional betrayal. It was a well-planned financial investment. The house Olivia and I had built with love had become numbers on a calculator to her. The lawyer was clear about how urgent the situation was. "Mr. Reed, if she manages to complete the paperwork within the next 30 days, it'll be much harder to contest it afterward. The best thing would be to act preemptively." I left his office with my mind made up. I wasn't going to sit around and wait for Kelly to finish the job just to then try to undo it in court. I didn't want to spend years of my life in a legal battle against my own daughter. There had to be another way to handle this. Something more direct and effective. Something that would show her I was still in control of my life and our family's legacy. I spent 3 nights thinking it all through, trying to process the magnitude of the betrayal I had uncovered. Kelly had completely underestimated me. She thought I was just a confused widower who wouldn't notice what was going on. But 40 years of work had taught me how to recognize when someone is trying to pull one over on me. And they'd also taught me that sometimes you have to remind people that you still know how to defend yourself when it matters. She had crossed a line, trying to declare me incompetent, taking over my house and planning to steal from me while I was still alive and fully aware. During those nights of reflection, I realized Kelly was so focused on completing the legal process that it hadn't even occurred to her that I might have found out. She still thought she was in control of the situation, that her plan was running smoothly. She kept treating me with that fake kindness like I was a minor inconvenience to be handled patiently. But I had one advantage she didn't know about. I was fully aware of what she was doing, while she had no idea I knew. And that advantage gave me some interesting ways to respond. Kelly thought she had played all the right cards: gradual occupation of the house, legal filings underway, even a quiet real estate appraisal. She was getting ready to become the new owner of my beach house, probably already making plans for what she'd do with it once I was declared mentally unfit. But she'd made a critical mistake. She underestimated her own father's ability to uncover the truth and fight back. And the options I had were the kind a daughter trying to trick her father probably wouldn't expect. That's when I decided to act. On my terms, in my own time. I waited for a weekend when the house would be empty. Kelly had informed me that they wouldn't be going because of other family plans, always with that fake courtesy of letting me know about my own property. On Saturday morning, I drove to San Clemente with a determination I hadn't felt in months. I stopped at a hardware store on the way and bought 4 large for sale signs, bright yellow with red letters highly visible. I also picked up sturdy wooden stakes and a cordless drill. The store clerk found it odd I was buying so many signs for one house, but he didn't ask unnecessary questions. I got to the house around 9 in the morning. The sun was shining, the street was calm, neighbors tending to their gardens like they always did on Saturdays. I took the signs out of the car and positioned them strategically, one at each corner of the front fence, right along the sidewalk where anyone walking by would clearly see them. Each sign was perfectly aligned, impossible to miss for anyone approaching the property. I used the drill to anchor the stakes deep into the damp soil of the yard. It was my property, my right to put up any sign I wanted, whenever I wanted. Then I took several photos with my phone. I wanted full documentation of how the front looked. On Monday, I called 4 different real estate agencies in San Clemente and explained my situation. I said I was considering selling my beach house due to recent changes in the family dynamic and needed urgent professional evaluations. Each agent showed genuine interest. It was a property in a high-demand area with great potential for a quick sale. I asked them to schedule discreet but steady visits throughout the following week. I need constant movement from professionals assessing the property, I explained honestly to all 4. I want to move fast on this, I added, and they understood it as the urgency of a motivated seller. I scheduled the visits to be spread across the week, one Wednesday morning, another Thursday afternoon, one Friday morning, and the last on Saturday. That way, there would be consistent professional activity around the house for several days in a row. On Wednesday, Kelly arrived with Rick and her in-laws to spend some of the summer at the house. I imagined the scene, them approaching the property, maybe chatting excitedly about the relaxing days ahead, until they saw the 4 massive signs out front announcing that the house was for sale. It must have been quite a shock for all of them, especially for Kelly, who thought she had everything under control. She called me immediately. I saw her name on the phone screen and deliberately didn't answer. I let it ring until it went to voicemail, exactly like she used to do when she didn't want to be disturbed. I wanted her to feel the same anxiety I felt when I found out about the scheme she was trying to pull. She sent a furious text. "Dad, what are these signs? Take them down right now." I deleted it without replying, following the same strategy she used when she didn't want to explain herself. Her irritation was obvious, even through the screen. 5 minutes later, another message came. "We have guests here. This is embarrassing for everyone." I deleted that one too, without hesitation. By the 3rd attempt, the tone had completely changed. "Dad, please call me. Let's talk calmly about this." Now she wanted to talk calmly, exactly what she didn't do when she decided to take over my house and try to rob me through legal channels. I put my phone on silent and went on with my day as usual, handling my chores in Santa Ana. It was my turn to control the timing and terms of the conversation, if there was even going to be one. The next day, Thursday, just as I expected, Kelly removed all the signs from the yard. She probably thought she had solved the problem for good, that she could just make my listing disappear and go on with her plans. I imagine she told her in-laws it was some family misunderstanding, that everything was under control now. Maybe she even made up some excuse about paperwork confusion or a miscommunication with me. I can picture her breathing a sigh of relief, thinking she'd successfully handled an awkward situation. But she had no idea that removing the signs was exactly what I was waiting for her to do. In fact, taking down the signs was only part of what I had planned for that week. On Wednesday afternoon, exactly as I'd scheduled, the first realtor showed up at the property. A seasoned agent driving a black sedan and carrying a professional-looking portfolio. I can only imagine Kelly's reaction when the doorbell rang and she found a real estate professional at the door, asking about the listing requested by property owner Charles Reed. She probably tried to explain it was all a mistake, that there was no sale happening. The realtor likely pushed back, showing the appointment notes, making the whole situation even more awkward for everyone in the house. On Thursday afternoon, the second agent arrived. Another serious, punctual professional, ready to evaluate a high-value property in San Clemente. Once again, Kelly had to deal with the embarrassment of explaining that no, there wasn't any sale going on. Her in-laws began noticing a strange pattern. Realtors showing up repeatedly at a house where they were supposedly just on a peaceful family vacation. Rick stood awkwardly in the middle of it all, not knowing how to explain to his parents what kind of family mess they'd just stepped into. With each visit from a realtor, the tension inside the house grew, and so did the discomfort. On Friday morning, the third agent showed up right on time, and once again, Kelly had to go through the same awkward explanation to another professional who had left their office to assess a property. Each realtor arrived with clear instructions. This is an urgent sale, driven by delicate family circumstances. The owner wants to move fast. They came prepared to work. Printed forms, calculators, detailed market comparisons. And Kelly had to stand there at the door of my house saying over and over again that no, there was no sale. The situation was becoming unbearable for her, and deeply uncomfortable for the in-laws. On Saturday morning, the fourth and final agent of the week arrived. By that point, Kelly was visibly irritated, and the in-laws clearly uneasy with everything that had happened. One more professional ringing the bell, one more humiliating explanation, more questions about what was really going on in that family. The entire week, I had followed the same pattern. I didn't answer a single one of Kelly's calls, didn't reply to any messages. It was exactly how I felt when I discovered she was trying to steal from me. Desperate, anxious, unable to talk to the one person causing all the pain. The only difference now was that she was feeling it herself, what it means to be completely ignored by a family member. By the end of that week, my phone had rung dozens of times, Kelly trying to reach me in a panic, sending messages that grew more desperate and confused by the day. The tone shifted from angry to pleading. "Dad, for the love of God, answer me. Rick's parents think our family is insane. Please, let's fix this." But I held my ground. Total silence. She was finally learning what it means to have no control over a situation, what it's like to be blindsided by someone you trust. And judging by what I had planned for the following week, this was only the beginning of a much bigger lesson about respect and consequences. I decided to increase the pressure on Kelly in a way she couldn't just fix by taking down signs. I called a moving company and scheduled a full evaluation of the house's furniture. Then I contacted a cleaning service that specializes in prepping homes for sale. "It's an urgent property sale," I explained to both companies. "The owner wants to get everything done quickly." Kelly thought she had regained control by removing the signs, but she had no idea that was just the beginning of something much bigger. Every call I made was like turning another screw, tightening the pressure she was feeling. I stuck to the same strict pattern: phone on silent, Kelly's calls completely ignored, messages deleted without even reading. She had tried to contact me dozens of times since the realtor's incident, but I didn't budge an inch. I wanted her to feel exactly what it's like to try solving an urgent problem and not be able to reach the one person responsible for it. That was the same feeling of helplessness I had when I found out about the scheme she was pulling. The difference now was that I had full control over whether or not we'd even speak. The first team to arrive was the moving company. 3 uniformed men showed up at the door, ready to evaluate every piece of furniture in the house. Kelly had to explain to these serious professionals that no, there was no move happening. But Mr. Charles Reed was very clear on the phone, the supervisor insisted. He said it was urgent because the property is being sold. The in-laws were watching all the confusion, clearly uncomfortable. It was the second week in a row that professionals were showing up at the house where they were supposedly enjoying a peaceful stay. The tension in the air was unmistakable, and Kelly was starting to realize she no longer had control over the story being told. The moving supervisor didn't accept the explanation easily. They had wasted time and fuel organizing a team for an appointment that apparently didn't exist. "Could you call Mr. Reed and confirm the cancellation with us? We need to speak to him directly." Kelly tried to explain she was having trouble reaching her own father, which only made the situation more awkward. How does a daughter not manage to talk to her own father about the house she's living in? The in-laws exchanged looks. It was becoming obvious there were serious family issues Kelly hadn't told them about. The next day, the cleaning crew arrived with industrial equipment, specialty products, and professional vacuums. They came fully prepared for a full-service deep clean to ready the house for the market. "We're from the cleaning company. We're here to prep the house for real estate listing," the team lead announced. Kelly gave the same awkward explanation, but this time the in-laws stepped in directly. "Kelly, what's going on? Does your father want to sell the house?" She tried to play it down. "It's just a misunderstanding. Probably a communication mix-up." But her excuse was quickly losing any credibility. The cleaning crew leader didn't back down. "Ma'am, this is the second service cancellation this week. We'll have to charge a call-out fee for the inconvenience." That financial penalty hit hard. Kelly now had to explain to the in-laws why she was paying fees for services that supposedly no one had requested. Her mother-in-law lost her patience completely. "Kelly, enough of this. We want to know what's really going on here. Your father clearly wants to sell this house, and you keep making up excuses about misunderstandings." Her tone left no room for deflection or lies. Rick tried to step in diplomatically. "Mom, this is probably just a communication issue between Kelly and her dad." But his mother wasn't buying it. Communication? He won't even answer his own daughter's calls. What kind of family problem is this? And why are we staying in a house that the owner is apparently desperate to sell? The embarrassment had reached an unbearable level. Kelly was cornered, unable to explain the real situation without admitting what she had actually tried to do. The truth about the scheme she attempted was becoming impossible to hide. During that time, Kelly was bombarding me with increasingly desperate messages. The tone had completely shifted. It wasn't irritation or impatience anymore, it was genuine panic. "Dad, my in-laws are asking questions I can't answer. The situation here is becoming unbearable. Please, we need to talk before this turns into a full-blown family scandal." I read every message with a sense of satisfaction I hadn't felt in months. Kelly was finally experiencing what it's like to be trapped in a situation you can't control, where someone you thought was on your side becomes completely unpredictable, even hostile. The pressure from the in-laws became too much for Kelly to handle. They began openly questioning whether they should even stay in a house where the owner clearly wanted to get rid of everything urgently. "Kelly, we don't feel comfortable staying here," her mother-in-law said firmly. "Your father clearly wants to sell this house and isn't even speaking to you about it. What kind of serious problem is going on between you two?" Rick tried to calm his parents, but they were firm. "We didn't come here to be caught in the middle of an ugly family dispute. If things are this messy, we'd better find a hotel right away." The threat of the in-laws leaving was the final blow to Kelly's pride and her plans. She had completely lost control of the situation she thought she had in the palm of her hand. Her in-laws were embarrassed. Rick didn't know how to explain the mess to his parents, and she couldn't come up with any more believable excuses. The house she had tried to take through a legal scheme was now turning into a very public nightmare. That afternoon, Kelly sent me a different kind of message. "Dad, we're leaving the house today. My in-laws want to go. Why are you doing this to me?" That's when I decided to respond. I picked up the phone and typed, "I found out about your attempt at the county records office, Kelly. This house still has an owner." I sent the message and waited. Her reply came a few minutes later. "Dad, can we talk in person?" I answered, "When you leave my house." The silence that followed lasted for hours. Later that afternoon, I got a message from Rick. "Charles, we're leaving now. My parents want to check into a hotel. Kelly is very shaken." I didn't reply. It was impossible not to feel a sense of victory and relief in taking back what was rightfully mine. After that, I never got another call from Kelly about the house. In fact, I never got another call from her about anything. The silence was total and final. No questions, no requests for explanations, no attempts at reconciliation. She had clearly understood the message I meant to send, but the price was the complete rupture of our relationship. The attempted scam at the records office created a wound that neither of us wanted to try to heal. Kelly learned there are lines that should never be crossed, not even within a family. And I learned that sometimes you have to lose a relationship to preserve your dignity. Kelly's relationship with her in-laws was also severely shaken after the whole ordeal. They had witnessed weeks of embarrassment, companies showing up at the house, awkward situations Kelly couldn't explain properly. Rick was caught in the middle of an impossible situation, trying to defend his wife to his parents while not fully understanding what had happened. Their marriage went through a serious crisis. The in-laws began to question what kind of person Rick had married, what kind of family problems existed beneath the surface. The house episode revealed sides of Kelly's character she would have preferred to keep hidden. The process at the records office was officially closed a few weeks later. Kelly never returned to submit the missing paperwork. The 30-day deadline expired in silence. That same week, I met with a lawyer to revise my will. The beach house in San Clemente, the one Kelly had tried to steal through fraud, would be donated to the city government to be used as a senior community center. It was a way to ensure the property served a meaningful social purpose and at the same time, to make sure Kelly would never benefit from the scheme she tried to pull on me. I went back to using the house in my own way, from time to time, with no rush, just to hear the ocean and sip my coffee while looking out at the horizon. On weekends when I felt like it, I'd drive to San Clemente and spend the day there. I'd sit on the porch with my breakfast, watching the waves crash on the beach, remembering Olivia and the days when that house meant family joy. Now it meant something different. My ability to stand up for myself when it mattered. The house was still a refuge, but it had also become a symbol that I was still capable of fighting for what was mine. Sometimes defending what's yours doesn't require a war, just resolve. Kelly tried to fool me by betting on my age, on my supposed naivety, on the belief that I wouldn't find out about the scam or wouldn't know how to respond. But she underestimated the wisdom that comes from 40 years of life and work. I didn't need courts, expensive lawyers, or drawn-out legal battles. I simply exercised my rights as the owner, in a way she never saw coming. In the end, Kelly lost far more than she expected. She lost the house she wanted to take, her relationship with me, and nearly lost her marriage. I lost a daughter, but I kept my dignity intact and made sure my property would have a worthy future. And now, I turn to you. Yes, you, the one who followed my journey. Have you ever felt betrayed by someone in your own family? Have you ever found out that people close to you were plotting behind your back while pretending to care? Tell us in the comments if you've ever had to take drastic steps to protect what's yours when your own family turned against you. If my story moved you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Every day I share true stories of people who faced family betrayal and found the strength to fight back when it mattered most. Remember, it's never too late to show that you're still in control of your life, even when others try to convince you otherwise.